In today's video, we have several prospect signings to discuss, including Alex Barabanov to the Maple Leafs. We also have some updates on the NHL potential return and what some scenarios could look like. And we also have some sad news on the Oilers forward, Colby Cave. We'll get into the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a variety of things to talk about today. Let's kick things off with the Maple Leafs signing KHL forward Alexander Barabanov. Now, Barabanov's a forward that we've discussed a few weeks back that he was basically had it boiled down to two teams, with the Leafs being the front runners. The Arizona Coyotes were the other teams apparently in the mix, but he has officially signed a one-year entry-level contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, obviously, Barabanov's not expected to come in and be a big star, but he could be a player that's somewhat comparable to maybe like a Timashov or maybe a Mikheyev, who's come over and had success with the Leafs recently this past season. Obviously, with the salary cap situation the way it is in the NHL, a lot of uncertainty around that, maybe not going up now due to the pause in the season, revenues lost. Obviously, the Leafs are going to need some players who can play on cheaper contracts, and he certainly fits the mold here for what that could possibly be. Now, here's some comments from GM Kyle Dubas on what his thoughts are on Barabanov and what he could bring to the team. Here's the comments from GM Kyle Dubas. He says he's strong. He's not overly tall at 5'10", but he's a very strong winger. He's a tremendous playmaking ability, great skill level and tight, but one of the other things we like most about him is his ability to make plays under pressure and his ability to win pucks, protect pucks when people come after him, and use his strength to be able to do that. So he's a playmaking winger who also has the ability to finish. Now, basically, the general consensus around some other people who are familiar with this player basically says he's not going to wow you with anything, but does a lot of little things right. He's a great skater, likely will be a bottom six player. At best, probably a solid third-line winger. Like I said, not going to come in and really steal anybody's job. Will be a guy who can kind of go up and down the lineup a little bit, maybe even be the extra forward some nights. But he's a player on a pretty good contract who can come over from Europe into KHL and take all his experience and see how it can translate into the NHL. Now, he'll be 27 years old when his contract expires, so he will automatically be an unrestricted free agent. So it gives the Leafs a chance to try him out for a year to see how things go. And if they go well, they can certainly look to re-sign him longer term and see how things go from there. But ultimately, pretty low risk for the Leafs with the potential for a pretty high reward and a potential solid bottom six player who can really fit in nicely with their team. A few other quick updates for you as well on some other pending KHL free agents who we might see sign contracts here in the very near future, including defenseman Artem Zub, who was rumored to be possibly signing with the Ottawa Senators. All things indicate that that's likely still going to happen, just not official as of yet, but there apparently were a few other teams in the mix, but the Senators have been proven to be the front runners for some time. So we should find out here in the future if Zub actually does sign with the Senators. And also KHL goaltender Alexei Melnichuk, also rumored to be joining an NHL franchise this year, making the jump to North America. Apparently has it narrowed down to 4 teams, all of them based in the U.S. is all we know at this point. But he also looks to be a pretty solid goaltender prospect, likely coming to North America for the fall once NHL hockey gets back here underway. Now let's take a look at some other news regarding some other prospects that have signed contracts here with NHL clubs, including the Winnipeg Jets signing 2017 second rounder and one of their top defensive prospects, Dylan Sandberg, who's played the last 3 years of college hockey at University of Minnesota Duluth, has had a pretty solid college career. He's played with the World Juniors and Team USA on multiple occasions and certainly has a lot of upside potential. Many scouts see him as having a solid top 4 potential, and with Winnipeg's blue line, with all the changes they've gone through over the last year, obviously not going to be a lot of pressure on him too quickly to jump into a bigger role, but certainly in the next couple of years, once he gets some experience, is expected to hopefully take on a top 4 spot with the Winnipeg Jets. So he signed his 3-year entry-level contract with Winnipeg and should make his debut this fall. The Arizona Coyotes have signed one of their prospects, and that's goaltender David Tenduyck, who's played in the last few years with the Western Hockey League's Vancouver Giants. Looks to be a pretty solid prospect goaltender. Had a really solid 2018 playoff run. This past year, 2019-20, was another really good year for the goaltender with the Giants. He put up a 2.29 goals against average and a .920 save percentage in the WHL. So to me, that's some pretty solid numbers, and he's on path to progress quite well here. So we'll see if he can make the pro jump sometime here in the near future. He likely could join one of their minor league teams for the fall here once hockey gets back underway. Florida Panthers haven't officially done so, but are expected to sign one of their top prospects in a 2018 first-round selection, Grigori Denisenko, who's been playing the last few years in the KHL since he's been drafted. He's played the last couple of World Junior Championship tournaments for Team Russia and had excellent tournaments, putting up 9 points in 7 games in each tournament between 2020 and 2019. So it looks to be one of the better prospects. Denisenko is highly regarded by many NHL scouts and certainly appears to be one of the top prospects not signed to a contract. So this would be big news for the Florida Panthers. They can come to North America, join their franchise, whether it be at the NHL or AHL level. Hard to say if he'd be able to make the jump directly to the NHL or not. I would suspect he'll likely need a little bit of time in the American Hockey League. Denisenko is a pretty solid hockey player, but that Florida Panther forward group is pretty deep, and it really would boil down to and depend on what other moves they make during this offseason. They do have some pending unrestricted free agents, so there's some question marks on who comes back and what this team looks like next year. So I guess we'll see where Denisenko goes, but the entry-level deal for Denisenko, though, may not be official until around May the 1st, so we'll see what happens, but Denisenko expected to join the Panthers this coming fall. Now, as I mentioned, Elliotte Friedman's been reporting that there's a number of scenarios that NHL is looking at, and of course, his situation with the COVID-19 virus shutting down professional sports is evolving on a day-by-day basis. So there's certainly been some more interesting concepts and updates about how hockey could return, and I want to quickly discuss here today, including the fact that Friedman says the NHL is looking at some neutral site games. Now, obviously, one area they're looking at was North Dakota and possibly Grand Forks. But Friedman goes on to indicate that most of the scenarios the NHL is looking at involves multiple cities where they could have multiple teams playing in a variety of capacity here. That wouldn't just all be in one location. Clearly, they'd want to have things spread out, and it's really going to boil down to where the hotspots are and what areas are safer than others for them to play in if it's possible. Obviously, they'd love to return to normal NHL hockey this summer, but at this point, it's kind of looking less and less likely as each day goes by that it's going to be a possibility, at least in its original format with all NHL cities being open and the buildings open. It's just, not looking promising at this point. If you look around North America, especially here, there's lots of cities that are still having, a lot of issues with the outbreak and the virus, so it's going to be some time before they can kind of resume what we used to call normal life. So obviously the NHL is examining all scenarios and very well could end up playing in empty arenas even when it does come back. Obviously around the NHL draft, there's going to be watching closely the NFL. They did announce that they're going to be proceeding with their draft as usual for the normal dates later this month in April, but it is going to be done obviously in a different format. It'll be done virtually, and I know the NHL is likely going to be watching that closely to see if they can pull off a similar type event. There's no word yet exactly when that could be. Right now, the original draft, which was planned for Montreal, has been canceled for the time being, but I guess we'll have to see when they do decide to host a draft, and they can't really do that until they've decided the fate of the NHL season, so they have a draft order and all those things that are kind of still up in the air. So I guess we will see what happens, but obviously the NHL and its brass are looking at all the different ways they can return. They're anxiously trying to find a solution here so they can complete this season, even if it means getting deep into the summer and having next year maybe even start a little bit late, which is one of the bigger scenarios being discussed, that maybe August and September could complete the 1920 season, maybe take some time off in October and resume a new season in November or mid-November or something to that effect. So I guess we will see how things go, but let's keep our fingers crossed that something gets figured out here so we can have some hockey back in action. But obviously, safety is by far the biggest concern amongst all the NHL players, fans, and everybody involved. So let's just hope this all goes away sooner rather than later. Now, as I mentioned as well, finally, there's some sad news on Oilers forward Colby Cave. This news was just broke before I sat down to record this video. Obviously, Cave's been around the NHL, gone up and down between the AHL and NHL the last number of years, played with Boston, Edmonton, and apparently he's in hospital and he's not in great shape. Let's take a look at the statement here released by the Oilers. The statement says, Oilers and Condors forward Colby Cave has been placed in a medically induced coma and admitted to the critical care unit at Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto after suffering a brain bleed overnight. Please keep Colby and his wife Emily in your thoughts and prayers at this time. Clearly, that's really unfortunate news. It's quite shocking to hear something like that. He's only 25 years old, but, sometimes things happen, and we just hope that he can make a full recovery here. Our thoughts and prayers are sent up to he and his family, and I hope that, like I said, he can recover and, get through this. But certainly, a very tough and stressful time for his family. So let's keep Colby Cave in our thoughts and hope he can make a full recovery. And for all of you out there watching this video, I certainly hope you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll catch you next time.